Hello and welcome to the SIPPIO June 2026 market briefing. Thank you for joining. My name is Matt Batterbee. If you've not joined one of these before, Director of Strategy and Strategic Alliances at SIPPIO. And I am joined today by Dom.
Fantastic. Great to see you, Matt. Thank you so much for having me on board.
Thank you for joining. Yes. So couple of slides just to kick things off, and don't worry, as if you've joined one of these before, you know full well I don't really do a death by PowerPoint on these sessions, but I wanted to do a couple of slides because I think there's a lot happening in the channel, a lot happening in the industry, and I keep saying that things are speeding up and we seem to see so much happening so much faster, and I wanted to visualize it as best as possible. So I created this next slide literally this morning. So let me just talk through it, and don't worry, you don't need to know about everything on the timeline. I thought the timeline made it look good, but really the main thing is down here. But as you can see, I've gone right back to the invention of the telegraph and the first message sent here. But the idea being, and I speak to a lot of partners, have done over my years in the channel, that have been around, a lot longer than I have been in the channel, 20 plus years in the channel, 20 plus years as MSPs, as technology resellers and VARs and SIs. And I think it's great. That sort of experience, you can't buy that. But I think as well, we are at this point where things are really speeding up, and that goes across technology across the board. But even when you look at voice and telephony, when you look at those earlier years, the major milestones and game changers were every sort of 30 to 50 years. You get to the mid 1900s, 20 to 30 years, into the 1990s, into the 2000s, every 10 to 15 years, 2010s, 5 to 10 years. And then where we are now, or just 2020s all up, it's 1 to 3 years. And this is just continuing to speed up. You only have to look at the Microsoft Copilot roadmap. There are over 200 items, new features and functionality currently in development. There's about 60 odd things getting rolled out. So it really is, we're at this crazy rate of change. And the reason I bring that up, and when I think about this market briefing, and I've got some great stuff around market updates on the next slide, got some great questions for Dom. But I've spoken to a lot of MSPs over the years, as I say, and I'm going to come at this from when I speak to Microsoft partners, because we're about to approach Microsoft FY27 as July rolls around. When you get sort of creeping up to that time period, you're always getting kind of pushed back in terms of, okay, well, we've got to hit this number by this day, and we'll think about that next quarter. And it's almost getting to a point now where that mentality can't win anymore. That kind of delaying things, that, okay, well, we've got this number, we need to hit this half, we're focusing on this, and we'll worry about that next half, because you're just going to fall behind, because the rate of change is happening so quickly. And also we're in this interesting period. And when I was thinking about this timeline, and I was thinking about the internet, let me go back. I was thinking about the internet disruption. And it got me thinking about my days as a young lad using MSN Messenger, but if I was on the internet and my mum or dad wanted to use the phone, I had to come off the internet so they could use the phone. And you think about that and you go, okay, so, 20 plus years ago, 20, 30 years ago, the technology that people were using in work trumped what they were using at home. I think that's completely reversed now. And you think about the amount of people day-to-day lives using AI, using ChatGPT, using Google Gemini, Copilot, whatever AI solution that they choose to use at home. I use it to write my running plans, or if I want to do a nice meal and I need a recipe, Google Gemini to the rescue. But people are using those tools. So actually now we're in this completely roles reverse, where the end customer doesn't know what they don't know, and they think they know a lot more. Because they're using this technology day in, day out in their home life, and then they're bringing it into work. So again, it's just as you think about the next half of the year and onwards from there, think about those things, that we are in this increased rate of, the technology completely changing. I really like this that I got at the bottom. For 100 years, voice barely changed. In the last 20 years, it's been reinvented twice. It just shows that, this rate is happening. So I would just keep that in mind in terms of putting things off or thinking, well, we can worry about that next half. You may already be falling behind. So I like the visualization. If anyone would like this, do let me know. Yeah, I think it visualizes it quite well. Just have a quick drink of water, bear with me. As we go into a market update, so let's just step back and look at what's actually happening across the market today. On one hand, you've got things in the UK like the PSTN switch off. And what's interesting here is it's no longer a future event. It's now operationally real. We're seeing millions of lines still needing to be migrated, particularly in the business space and especially in those more complex edge cases, things like alarms, lifts, elevators, payment systems. So what's happening is that the market has moved from, we should probably start thinking about that, to we need to move, and we need to move quickly. I think a recent stat that I saw was around 50% of businesses haven't even thought about the next move. So there's a lot of work still to be done, a lot of assessments, let's say, or advising that a lot of these businesses need from partners like yourselves. And at the same time, you've got cloud voice has effectively become the norm. So most organizations have either moved or are in the process of moving to cloud-based platforms, and that's delivered a lot of value. But it's also created a market where everything feels similar to the customer. So same platform, same features, same positioning. So differentiation at the connectivity layer is getting harder. And then on top of that, AI enters the conversation. You can't go a technology session these days without mentioning AI. But AI is changing expectations. So customers now expect communication platforms to be intelligent, integrated, and increasingly automated. So what we're really seeing is three major shifts happening simultaneously: a forced infrastructure migration, a standardized platform layer, and a new AI-driven layer emerging. And when you stack those together, you get one of the most compressed periods of change that we've seen in telecom in decades, which again is kind of why I wanted to show that previous slide as well. I've only got one more slide, and hopefully you'll be glad to see it. It starts off with a partner opportunity. So we're looking at that now. So, if we translate all of that into what it actually means for partners, there's a very clear window of opportunity emerging. The first and most immediate is migration. There's still a significant volume of customers who have not addressed PSTN. And importantly, many of them don't even fully understand the complexity of what needs to change. And that creates a very real opportunity for partners to step in, not just as providers, but as trusted advisors to assess, to guide, to manage, and then manage that transition. And the second opportunity is around standardization. As cloud platforms become the default, customers are making decisions about where their communications will live. So this is no longer about selling a phone system. It's about owning a piece of the customer's core architecture. And once that's in place, that becomes a long-term relationship. And then the third and most important one looking forward is AI, because this is where the market will start to separate again. Where cloud created uniformity, AI will create differentiation. And the opportunity here is significant because it moves partners up the value chain from connectivity to capability to outcomes. So instead of just delivering minutes or numbers, partners are delivering automation, customer experience, business efficiency. So when you look at the next 12, 24 months, there's a lot of short-term revenue opportunity within migration, but the real prize is owning the platform and monetizing what sits on top of it. So this is one of those rare moments where infrastructure change, platform change, and technology and innovation is all happening at the same time. Again, just to go back to this slide real quick, again, it is only speeding up. Again, I'll come at it from a Microsoft perspective. I mentioned it before. You look at those roadmaps of those products and solutions within the Microsoft 365 stack alone. As I say, Copilot just has over 200 items in development, where the rest have nowhere near that. So, this rate of innovation within AI is really speeding up. and the talk track is, even in the last 12 months around AI, has completely changed. There's events where if you attended the event last year, the keynote was all about Copilot. You attend it this year, it's all about agentic AI agents. So we are really moving fast on this one. You'd be glad to know that is the end of the slides on that one. I just thought it'd be good to pull that in and put a bit of insights into there. And so Dom, pulling you back into the conversation. Now, one thing I always love when I'm speaking to Cavell or at one of your events is the research that you guys put together and how you present that. So yeah, it's been a while since the last Cavell that I was at, a few months. What's new?
Yeah, so thank you for having me on here just as a start. And I apologize to the audience if I sound a bit croaky. Coming off the end of a cold, and actually yesterday we were hosting our first ever CX conference in London. So I spent the whole day talking, and by the end of it, could not talk no more. So if you hear a little bit of croak, that's where it's from. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be on here, and yeah, really happy to be working with SIPPIO on this. It's long-term partnership we've had with your company, and yeah, really pleased that we can work. And I think looking at those slides you just presented, it was really interesting going through those, because what you'd said on that last section about kind of the market, how fast it's moving, and you kind of 50 years down to the last 3 or 4 years since 2020, the changes we're seeing through there. And that's certainly something we've seen. And if I take the last 5 years, for example, looking at what were the key priorities in that? I mean, 2020, when the pandemic hit, everyone was focused on better communication, better collaboration, because people go, well, how do I work from home? How do I enable my team to be able to communicate as best as possible now they're working from home? And then you go to 2021 and people are working from home, pandemic's continuing, enterprise buying kind of decision making was really around, well, how do I manage that telecom solution better? How do I reduce costs potentially? How do I constrict or grow number of licenses, as some of those companies were growing incredibly fast, but others were obviously cutting back of people. In the UK, we had kind of the furlough scheme as well. So saw that coming through in 2021. Hit 2022, start going hybrid work. People start going back to the office. Again, a big driver for IT teams there are going, well, how do I make sure that I work as well from the office as I do from home? So we saw another change there, and another way that people are having to think about that IT infrastructure and communications infrastructure. And then obviously end of 2022, I wouldn't say it's the birth of AI, but it's the birth of probably accessible AI to the masses. When ChatGPT launched, ChatGPT, or OpenAI, sorry, launched ChatGPT. And what we saw when we looked at the priorities of IT buyers in 2023, first time ever you saw using AI to buy better efficiency and productivity, was the 4th highest priority. So within a year, that had come really strongly into there. We hit 2024, and using AI to drive better productivity and efficiency becomes the 2nd most important thing as well. So again, coming more important. And then when we ran this survey again last year, what we saw is across all different segment sizes, using AI to drive better productivity and efficiency was the #1 priority for IT buyers. So I completely can see what agree with what you're seeing in the market, that the last 5 years have been 5 years of massive change. And at the end of it, we're in a situation where the question on everyone's mind is, what is AI? How is it going to help me as a business? And for the people who are selling these solutions, is where can I make some money off this as well?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot, especially with some of the events that have been on recently around AI. I do look at the chat boards and things like that every now and again, and you see that the partners are going, it's all well and good giving me the buzzwords and the excitement around it. How do I sell it? How do I package this up? And how do I make money from it? I think that has been missing. I actually did a like PDF on my LinkedIn the other day. So I saw that and I was like, right, I'll do something, no jargon, no messing. Just there you go. This is how you can package it up and sell it. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement around it, but there's also a lot of confusion in the channel as well, not just from the end customer, but the partners.
Yeah, well, I think the demands are coming from everywhere. You can't turn on the news or read any article around technology in the moment and not think you're behind the curve of going, well, why are we not using AI across our whole organization? Where are we using to optimize costs? Where are we looking to drive revenue with it? What are we doing with it? And that conversation's not coming from the IT team as such now. That's a C-suite decision being pushed down. And it may not even be C-suite. It may be, you know, investors pushing down to C-suite, pushing down to IT, pushing down to the rest of the organization. So yeah, from a kind of enterprise and SMB standpoint, I think there's a lot of worries that people are behind where they need to be. And that's where they're leaning on the partners to go, well, look, what can we do? And a lot of the partners out there, I think, are struggling themselves to really work out what the opportunity is here. Because again, they're sat there going, well, how far do we do this? Do we resell? Or do we go from a consulting standpoint on this? Are we reselling products that have AI built in them, and that's how we're going to enable AI for our customers? Or are we going to be, you know, building on ChatGPT, on Gemini solutions for our customers and making them bespoke? Are we going to be managing some of those deployments? There's a whole host of companies emerging at the moment in the contact center space who are doing AI agents assurance. So working out whether those AI agents that they've put in place are actually doing the right thing, saying the right thing, and using AI to pull all the transcripts from human conversations. So suddenly you're doing a much wider level of quality assurance than before. So there's a lot of areas that can be used in, but I think there's a lot of failed deployments as well, because people don't really know what they're trying to do with it. There's a number of studies out there which show 95% of failed deployments of AI. MIT, I think, said that. S&P Global had another stat very similar. And it's, I think there's a lot of people trying new things, which is why stuff is failing. And the accessibility to fail quickly with this is making people try lots of different bits and pieces on this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And then I think even from like an end customer, one session, it was the last Cavell event that I was at, actually. There was an end customer who their IT director, or I'm really selling this terribly because I just remember what he said. I don't remember a lot about him, but it was he was approached by his leadership, and it was, we need an AI strategy. And it was, what do we want to do? I don't know. We just need an AI strategy. So it was, that's what, you know, partners need to realize they're dealing with. And that was an enterprise business. You know, that was a large business, know what they're doing. But even they were like, we know we need to be investing in AI to gain the edge, but we don't know what we want to do. And you're right. You know, I've seen those same surveys around the failed AI initiatives, and there's even now, because agentic AI is being pushed so much as well, it's a similar stat. It's about 85% of all AI agents don't go from a pilot to production. 85% fail to reach production. Around 30% of those failures are due to voice. So there's a lot of opportunity there. But there's a lot happening where it is those failures.
I think one of the other interesting angles around, you know, as you say there, around the board is demanding AI, and what are we doing with AI? Alongside that, now we're seeing that also demand, or that question internally is, are we doing this safely? Are we doing this compliantly? And what does that mean? And I think that's a really interesting when we look at the kind of cloud voice market as well, because if I take 5-6 years ago, the drive was moving towards the cloud. Over the last 3 or 4 years, certainly that has accelerated. You look at countries like UK, USA, Nordic markets, Benelux, and in the Netherlands, they're very high penetration rates now and growing pretty rapidly. But one of the interesting trends we've seen in the last 12, 18 months, though, is those companies who are questioning around AI in terms of, what does this mean from a governance standpoint? What does this mean from a control standpoint? What does it mean from a sovereignty standpoint? That is coming now back into the cloud voice communicator side of things as well. And the US administration, we'll look at this from a European versus US angle. There's a number of European organizations, especially in public sector, who are questioning their reliance on US technology. And that is causing not just maybe a slowdown in adoption of cloud voice, but also a slowdown in adoption of questioning whether cloud voice is actually the future for some of these big organizations. It's not happening as much in the SMB. It's not happening as much in the mid-market. It's very vertically focused. So around some public sector, defense, things like that, where you're going, we need to have control of that communication stack, and we need to maybe move it back on-prem or private cloud instance. But certainly that's a conversation we've been hearing more and more across Europe, mainly, of well, what control do we need to have around our platform, and what does that look like? And I think that offers a huge opportunity for the partners out there as well, though, to go and really understand what those customers want and how they're going to deploy these solutions in a really compliant, safe, and sovereign, in a lot of cases, way.
Yeah, I think, and I've seen it in the Cavell reports, but it's, when you look at the what are businesses investing in 2026, it's always the top three is AI, security, and then cost optimization. And we've kind of ticked all those boxes there. But yeah, I think the security piece is really important, and obviously, but I think more and more businesses now, I think, because I don't know if a week can go by without a big data breach happening, and it gets reported on. You see it on LinkedIn, you see it in the news. I think more people are switching on to that. Then you've got AI security breaches, and you've got people using shadow AI tools and copy and pasting company data into them without realizing they're doing anything wrong. So yeah, there's definitely I think businesses are looking at, when they look at their entire technology suite, they're kind of putting voice into that bucket and thinking about the security element of it and the integration piece as well. Because I've seen other surveys out there and reports that show that, and this definitely impacts the AI integration, but AI adoption, but only around less than 30% of all of a company's technology stack is integrated. So you've got these data silos that are causing massive issues when it comes to any kind of adoption of new technology, voice, AI, so on.
Yeah, and I think, look, again, that's something which we hear a lot of around integration, as that being an area that people are looking at how they can make these systems work together. And we've talked for a number of years about the intelligent workplace, which is you cannot have a siloed organization now where data sits in individual silos and individual platforms. You need to be able to pull that data out into different places. And I think it's an interesting one when I look at how are buyers looking at the moment? And this is more focused on the enterprise market than SMB, I would say. But what we're seeing more and more is businesses have 2 or 3 anchor platforms, let's call them. And that might be Microsoft, the Microsoft suite. It might be Salesforce. It might be an ERP system. It might be Twilio. It might be something like that. But it's that is those ecosystems. If you're not in those ecosystems, you're not going to be able to play. You're not finding large enterprises going, well, look, if it doesn't, if you're a Teams organization, you're not going to go and find a contact center that doesn't integrate with Teams. You're not going to go and find a collaboration platform that doesn't integrate with Teams. You're not going to get a call recording solution or an AI solution that doesn't integrate with Teams, or the Microsoft suite in general. And I think that's where this world is becoming more interconnected. Organizations are looking for those efficiencies and things to work together. You're starting to see a bit of, let's say, scope creep from some of the vendors as well, of building more capabilities into their platform. We saw Salesforce announced a $3.6 billion acquisition yesterday of a conversational AI provider. Salesforce launched their own contact center play recently. There's a lot of noise out there that CRM is dead. I don't subscribe to that myself, but look, it's a lot of people stepping into different areas. And I think this is also what we see in the cloud voice side. From a cloud telephony standpoint, a lot of those providers are building contact center solutions, because what we see is when I say contact center, people think of banks of people in a big warehouse answering phones, and that's not the case, and especially not the case in SMB. There's a really interesting talk yesterday at our event where 8x8 CEO got up on stage and was talking about every single person in the organization. If they speak to customers, they're involved in customer engagement, and you can't have just that customer engagement solution and just those features which enable customer engagement going to those people who are sales or customer support or whatever that is. I think the view that he was kind of putting forward, which I kind of subscribe to, is in the future that call needs to go to the best person in the organization who's going to answer it. Now, we talk around intelligent routing and where that's going to come through in the in a UCaaS solution. That is turning these kind of UCaaS solutions into a contact center, into contact center light, and that's for us a massive opportunity in that SME or SME mid-market space, where moving beyond kind of the core cloud voice license, the big opportunity is bringing those contact center features, call recording, transcription, making sure all of that's happening, making sure smart IVR is going through, training the person who's on the call to be, this is what you could have said differently. You're speaking to customers, that's relevant, regardless if you're a salesperson or if you're a customer support. If you're as a business owner myself, I'd like, when I speak to customers, that kind of feedback of maybe you could have said this, maybe you should have said this. I think for me, there's big opportunities there which emerge throughout that.
Yeah, and times have definitely changed. I mean, my life before the Microsoft ecosystem, I was actually leading a contact center. So and this was the time where I had to listen to so many calls a month of my agents, and it was very time consuming. And then you'd get lucky or unlucky, depending on how you look at it, and you'd get 10 perfect calls, and then you'd get a complaint about that very agent. And you listen to a few more calls, you go, oh, they're actually 9 times out of 10, they're not great. I just got 10 great calls in a row. And now you've got the technology to essentially listen to every single call, provide ongoing feedback. It's, again, the technology is just moving so fast, and the impact that this can have on an organization, whether it's making sure you don't miss calls, making sure it's, if you do miss a call, there's a workflow. What's that? That they call back. And have you seen any data around? And I'm kind of putting you on the spot with that one, but with that technology around, in terms of ROI value, where's that value being seen? And
so it's a really interesting question because it's I'd say one of the biggest holders back of people moving to AI solutions is that ROI conversation. Because it's difficult to quantify in some elements of it. And I think a lot of businesses are looking at AI as a cost reduction measure. How can we use AI to cut costs, either in the contact center, either in the organization? Because of that, they're looking at the ROI of, well, if I spend this money here on the AI solution, what other costs can I cut in other organization, in other parts of the organization? Look, there's a lot of places you can do that, but it's not a scalable way to grow a business. If I cut 10% of my cost year one, cutting another 10% of cost year two is going to be pretty difficult. And it gets exponentially more difficult to do that. Now, there's a lot of solutions out in the market that the ROI is actually, if I can add 10% growth by putting in this solution, and that might be making sure that my team are more efficient. It might be making sure that sales inbound inquiries are answered quicker. All of those kind of things, which you go, well, actually, these are revenue generating rather than cost saving. For me, that is the way that AI is going to win. But the challenge for those is the ROI conversation is probably a bit harder to prove. The cost saving one's quite easy, of going, well, you bring this in, it's going to cost 10 grand, but you're going to save 20. You go, perfect. Let's test that and see if that works. When you're doing one going, well, this is going to make your employees more efficient, I don't know if many businesses are actually set up to show how efficient their employees are in the best of times. It's a difficult ROI conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And I've even seen it in some of the the Microsoft provided kind of pitch decks around Copilot, and it'll use a very general time saving per day or per week. And I look at it and go, well, I save more than that. And then, I think about someone in an SMB legal server, they're going to save hours, not minutes. They're going to save hours. If they're all day in PDFs and Word documents and, they're going to save hours and hours. And I think with everything that we've talked around on this as well, I think this really highlights to me kind of a one partner for the whole stack opportunity for partners, because you've got businesses want to spend the money on AI. Where's that coming from? They're also thinking about cost optimization. That can come from reducing the number of vendors, partners, MSPs that you're getting your services from. And I think when I mentioned that stat before around the less than 30% of all applications that a business use are actually integrated. Therefore, the AI ROI is going to be not great because they're not integrated. I think it's going to take one partner, or maybe, it could be a partner working with another partner, but they have to be in conjunction with one another to actually drive the value. Otherwise, you're always going to have these data silos. That could be voice, could be whatever that might be. There's always going to be these data silos. There's always going to be these tools getting used that shouldn't be. So I think it does reshape the opportunity for partners. I don't know if you're seeing anything around that in data.
It's really interesting when we look at the buying decisions of why people choose a partner. Our research is showing, well, look, they're looking for the people who can bring the best products, obviously, and work in their ecosystem they have, but they're looking for those skills. They're looking for that expertise around there. So I think the way that I see partners evolving, look, we do a lot of work in the partners and understanding what they look like, what they're doing, what they're selling, what vendors they have in the portfolio. And one of the biggest challenges is, and I think you reference this as well, is look, the technologies are looking pretty similar. So, it's, you can buy one solution or buy another solution, it's going to remain fairly the same. And the other challenge as well now is, even if they do look different from a feature perspective, I was talking to chief product officer of a large US contact center vendor. He said, look, I don't even care if my competitors bring out a feature now. I'll copy it within 3 months now because I'll use AI to build in the back end. So this kind of innovation that we used to see as a moat, innovation is being commoditized in the technology space. So what does that deliver for the partners? Well, look, for a partner, I don't think in the future you will find a partner who is being able to say, we're just really good at selling to SMB. We're really good at selling to mid-market. The partners who you're going to want to work with, if you're a restaurant or a retail organization, you're going to want to work with a partner who understands your business inside out. And that might be that they've worked with you for years and they understand it, but they're going to be vertical specialists who really understand how to deliver those services to you. Who can bring you ideas based upon what your peers are doing in different spaces. And also be able to prove that ROI by going, well, look, we're working with another restaurant and they've been able to reduce the no-shows by X amount by putting in a chatbot that will, putting in a automated SMS that's going to go out and message someone. We're putting in, you can put cost savings by bringing this solution in, or these integrations we can do with specific applications, and now we can do that. So for me, the partner of the future, and I say this to the partners on the call, is you're going to have to look to specialize. You're going to have to look at verticalization. The world is becoming more globalized. Countries becoming more globalized. You can't be the best reseller in Arkansas anymore, because the best reseller in Maine is going to come down and go, well, look, I can kind of handle the regulation down there. That's not a problem. I'm going to have the same product set. I'm going to deliver a better wraparound because I know that customer better. And the customers, from that standpoint, I say, go and find those partners who understand your business. It's not good enough to have a partner nowadays, I think, who goes, I kind of understand you're a small business. This is the kind of features you want. This is kind of things you need. Every small business has very unique, every vertical has such unique use cases for technology, use cases for how they communicate, use cases for how they work. Find a partner who understands that, and find a partner who's going to really drive that forward.
100%. And I've seen data that shows it's a very high percentage of end customers that would prefer to do business with an MSP that speaks their language, that understands their industry. And I think you're right. It's funny, as you were talking about a restaurant then, I was literally thinking about, I don't go on a lot of dates with my wife because we've got 2 kids, But I took her out for a meal recently, and I got a text the day before and the day off from the restaurant, and it was like, if you want to cancel, just reply saying yes. And I thought, I wonder how much value that gives them, in terms of people, because if it wasn't for that, would I, and I didn't cancel, we did go. But if I was, they weren't going to charge me if I didn't cancel, but then they've lost the booking.
Well, that's it. If you're a restaurant now, and I've got quite a few friends who work in the restaurant business in the UK and own a number of own restaurants, and it's tough out there. It's really difficult. So one lost table on a Saturday night, an 8 p.m. sitting, let's say, which is kind of prime time, you're holding that for half an hour, expecting they might turn up, and you're not going to get that revenue. That might make or break profit for the night.
Well, this is it. We were in, it was Chester, and it was Chester race day. So the horse racing, which thousands of people descend on Chester and booking restaurants and things. It's really hard. So even to get a table, but like you say, if they were to hold that for me, no one's waiting around on that day, and they've lost the booking.
Hey, if they're smart, they might be able to check if you're a winner or not and buying a bottle of champagne. So it's that's the integration you might see in the future.
Yeah, but no, I completely agree. I mean, I've been banging my head against the brick wall for years about industry specialization, because I just think if you can really understand, and I remember sitting in rooms with a lot of Microsoft partners, I'd say, oh, what industries do you specialize in? And you get looked at with blank stares. This is going back 5 years or so now. But it's still real to some point today. And I think industry, I think what AI has done has made industry even more important, because everyone, and I say this, even I look at SIPPIO internally, and I guarantee that every different role gets different value from AI. So that's not even a different industry. That's the exact same company, just different roles. And we're all getting different value from AI and using Copilot. And I think, you're taking that upper level and you're trying to cast a wide net. It's very difficult with AI. You need to be getting to know your customers. You need to be having the long conversations and understanding their challenges. I think, come back to that point before around, we need an AI strategy. Don't know what we need, but understanding your customers' challenges and their goals, you're going to be able to build out a strategy for them, not just for AI, but just absolutely everything. And this is where that kind of one partner for the whole stack comes in. You really understand, okay, and again, not every business is going to be able to invest in everything right away. Great, build a roadmap. And then all of a sudden, you've got essentially customer ads coming in for the next 18 months, but it's just new solutions that they're going to roll into their solution stack. And you're going to be extremely sticky as a partner if you do those sorts of things.
No, I agree. And I think the other interesting angle to look at that as well is you talk about how to understand how each individual within that organization, how they work, what they need, and things like that. I think one of the biggest challenges right now for organizations when you're measuring, and back to the ROI conversation, when you're measuring ROI of a new solution coming in, you think, well, this stuff is maybe not getting the ROI because not many people are using it. I think if you looked at kind of the shadow IT usage of AI solutions, and even AI and voice solutions as well, it would paint a really interesting picture in a lot of these organizations. I know within our organization, we've got Copilot. We all use Copilot, but then I use ChatGPT a lot under a paid license for that. Someone else uses Gemini. Someone else uses Claude. Like, we've all got preferences around that. And we've got some pretty stringent use. How do we use it? What can we use it for? How do we pull different bits of how can we use AI outside of the kind of allowed bit on Copilot? But it's a really interesting kind of viewpoint on that of where does shadow AI come in and what risks is that going to have to the business? And again, if you understand how the business operates and can get the best solutions in there, you're going to reduce shadow AI usage. I think the other element of that from a voice perspective is WhatsApp, and I say this more from a European or outside of the US, where WhatsApp hasn't got as much penetration or much usage, a lot more iMessage around that space. But I think around my work WhatsApp and the amount of stuff I get through there, which is not tracked. I'm taking those conversations with me wherever I'm going. I can't, unfortunately, put an out of office on it, which is frustrating when you're on holiday and you're going, I hope no one from work calls me or messages me, and you go, oh, well, no one from my work does, but my customers do. So there's that kind of thing as well of where do we bring these consumer apps in? And it harks back to what you said at the start that, IT or business IET used to be where innovation was, and people would get that's where they would use technology. Now the use of technology in the home place, as you say, use AI for all these different personal use cases. I use a ton of different technologies in my home life, which are now merging into my work life as well. And how do you balance those as an organization from a security, from a compliance standpoint, but also from a partner standpoint? What's the risk that you're trying to mitigate through that as well?
Yeah, and I think from a partner perspective, and I think one of the things that is being missed a lot when it comes to the question of how do I make money on this? And this isn't the only way to make money on this, but I think it's one service that is being completely overlooked by a lot of MSPs, and that is education as a service. And I don't, because you're not just going to train this once. I'm actually just looking at, I wanted to make sure I got my numbers right here, but I'm looking at the Microsoft Copilot roadmap. You've got 329 items that have been launched. You've got 58 that they're rolling out right now, and you've got 214 in development. If you're a business and you're investing in Copilot, there's an ongoing education there, and also they're adding new features into obviously the other workloads, but they're adding Copilot into other solutions. Whether it's in Word, and then there's new ways that you can work with that. I think, and this is being massively overlooked, because I think a lot of traditional MSPs, maybe they saw Microsoft 365, and you kind of get to a point where I was using it in school, so I know how to use Word and PowerPoint and Paint. But but now these solutions are being updated so much, and I think it does all start from shadow AI as definitely an education point that needs to happen, because we know the risks of copying and pasting company data into just a unpaid, unsecure shadow AI tool. If you were to ask 9 out of 10 people at an organization that's not, let's say, tech savvy, they don't use this all the time, they're not into the weeds like we are, they won't have a clue of the risk of that. And they're doing it not out of malicious intent. They're just doing it by wanting to be productive, wanting to produce good work. They're just using the wrong tools. And I think this is something that MSPs need to, and just technology providers in general, need to definitely look at putting into their practices, is that ongoing education. And if you put that on a subscription model, or, you call it everything's as a service. So we'll just say EAS, education as a service. And all of a sudden it bundles in with your overall AI and managed service offering, but you're then educating your customers. And like I say, this isn't slowing down. It's only speeding up. Those game changer events are getting closer together. If I go back to that first slide of the session, there's going to always be stuff that you can educate your customers on as an MSP when it comes to AI. And there's always going to be, it's going to open up the opportunity then to understand, okay, well, what's not working well for them? And then boom, all of a sudden you've got this agent opportunity, because, well, we can speed that up for you, but we can build an agent for it. That, and I've done that within SIPPIO. I helped our teams with some AI prompting. I use the goal methodology when it comes to my prompting. And I was doing that. And then even that, I was thinking, I write like a paragraph for every prompt. I was like, there's got to be a quicker way than this as well. And there was. I've built agents within Copilot Studio, and now I can type in one word and I get loads of information on the subject that I'm looking for.
Amazing.
Like, being more and more productive. So again, if you're an MSP, you should be, or any technology provider, you should be educating your customers. That's how you're going to A, make sure they're safe and secure. And B, get that feedback that you can then turn into other investment area opportunities.
Well, and I think, again, that if you're specialized in a certain vertical and you're able to do real deep education of the customers of what are your competition doing in terms of this? What are your peers doing? What are they using? How do they do that? That's way more valuable than what's AI? What's happening through here? How does that work? So I agree. I think there's an education piece and an ongoing education piece as well. I think a lot of MSPs are like a lot of organizations. They don't really know where they're supposed to play a role in this. For once, probably, they can go into some organizations and be like, well, this organization is actually further ahead than we are in terms of how they're using AI, and they should be going in to learn from them almost as well. It's there's an education as a service, but there's also then how do these partners become as educated as they can be as well in there.
Yeah, well, somebody did write in the chat, EAS, love it. So there we go. I one person over with my idea there, but I definitely think it presents a massive opportunity for partners to monetize AI as a let's call it a bundled offering on a subscription model, reoccurring revenue, and then you can start to wrap around more services like voice and so on. If you're maximizing the AI ROI opportunity, then voice should be integrated 100%. It's the richest source of data, and 9 times out of 10 it's siloed off. So I just seen what time we're on. This conversation has absolutely flown, and I could probably keep going for a lot longer. But I'm going to put it out to the chat and just say, if there are any questions, by all means, pop them into the chat, pop them into the Q&A. We can hang on for a few more minutes, just answer any questions that are come in. So I'll say that there, and then Dom, I'm going to say, is there anything that you're excited about, or what you're seeing in the, as we go towards the second half of this year? Anything that you're seeing that you'd like to highlight?
I think it's, as we spoke about earlier, it's that ROI piece of, how can we get ROI out of these solutions and where are they going to look like? And I think we're seeing a whole host of new startups emerging who are very vertically focused, doing solving something in an AI there. So I expect that the ecosystem is going to continue to evolve in terms of what people can work with and how they could work. And from there, what does that look like from a partner perspective? How can they, bring those into portfolio? What can they do with them? So as an industry analyst, I spend my time talking to interesting vendors, understanding what they're doing, what they're building for out there. So I can remember probably 2021, 2022. And some of the innovation that I would see coming out would be in the Microsoft Teams or Zoom would say, hey, we can now fit 16 people on a screen. So you've got 16 little video things. And that was a big announcement at the time. And I was kind of going, it's innovation. I mean, it's cool, but it's not innovation. And now I look at the pace of change happening at the moment, and it's scary. I mean, the amount of times I used to think I knew quite a lot about what was going on, and I'm constantly learning, constantly speaking to people, constantly trying to pick up what's happening, where things are going. So I'm my hope for the next 6 months is I'm going to continue to see more and more interesting use cases, more and more interesting companies emerge. I pray that there's going to be more and more stability. That's one thing we get a lot from people, is wanting more stability in terms of macroeconomic uncertainty. So that is my one wish for Christmas, is to have some stability for the next 6 months. So we can all get on with actually investing in our businesses and investing in areas which is going to help us grow without worrying about the sky falling in on us. So that's kind of what my dream, my wish list is.
I like that. When you mentioned there around I've mentioned it as well, but the rapid rate of evolution, I thought I'd change. I'm looking at the Microsoft roadmap for M365, and I filtered just the Teams. So they are currently rolling out 125 items for Teams, and there's 67 in development. So it's not, Teams is up there as well in that AI sphere of the amount of things that are happening. I've seen some announcements around, and a lot of it comes down to enhancing security, making sure, similar to what you have on your mobile phone where it comes up, potential scam and those sorts of blockers, building them into Teams as well. So some really cool stuff coming that people can take advantage of. But I definitely recommend anyone listening, check out the M365 roadmap and start thinking about EAS, education as a service, because there's a lot of opportunity for that. Awesome. Well, I know we're coming up to time, so I would just say huge thank you for coming on, joining us. I would definitely love to have you on again, and we can chat. Or if you want me to return the favor at a Cavell event and just pepper me with questions instead.
Why not? That'd be fun. Excellent. Well, look, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here, and look forward to working together in the future. Thank you everyone for joining as well. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.